Guys, don't forget to hang out right after I finish talking about this particular product to listen to our question of the day, because we'd love to hear your comments. Now, let's talk about this guy. What's up guys, Brandon from Gearist here, today in beautiful Wampatuck State Park in Hingham, Massachusetts, and today we're going to be talking about the EM Trail N1 version 2 from Pearl Izumi. Way back in February of 2014, we first took a look at the EM Trail N1 as well as the EM Road N1 from Pearl Izumi, and as is the hallmark of that entire E-Motion line by Pearl Izumi, Smoothness was definitely the name of the game. So I was very curious to get into version 2 of this shoe and see what might have changed, how would they have improved it, and why after almost 2 years did Pearl Izumi decide to come out with a version 2 instead of sticking with well enough. So let's get down and dirty with this bad boy right here and tell you what it's all about. Now, starting with the outsole as per usual, you know, it's pretty interesting that I really don't have much to say about a product. Can you believe it? But in this case, if you're looking at it pretty much cosmetically, it's almost identical to version 1 of this shoe. However, I contacted Pearl just to exactly see what had changed, because there had to be a reason that they put it out. And one of the biggest changes that I've noticed and that they mentioned is that no longer are they using entirely blown rubber on this guy. Now they're using a carbon rubber compound, which is going to bump up that amount of durability that you've got on the shoe, and it is certainly evident with the mileage that I've got on here. So how have they held up in my roughly 50 miles in them? And the answer is really quite well. Now, what I've run on with this has been mainly dry terrain. Now, in version 1 of this shoe, I definitely ran on some super muddy stuff, which in Colorado means that it's really slick mud. So it's really unfair to a shoe to kind of compare it to that, because nothing is really going to grip well in that kind of material. But with this guy, it has held up very, very well, and to be honest, the traction is pretty much identical on the rocky and off-camber terrain that I've noticed. And again, that means that it's very, very smooth. And of course, we will touch on this more in the ride section, but the smoothness of this ride is consistent from version 1 to version 2, and the grip is consistent, which is a biggie, because if you're going to take this on long runs, which that smoothness asks you to do, you really want to make sure that you're having a nice smooth gait cycle, and this really enhances that a lot. Moving into the midsole, this is another place where I needed to reach out to Pearl and say, guys, what is the difference here? And while they did say there was one cosmetic change, which is a design line or something, I cannot find it, try as I might, but that doesn't matter. That material change, which you might not have a very easy time noticing, actually smoothed out the transition from the heel or midfoot into the forefoot, which is, again, if you're going to take this thing long, which is begging you to do, is going to really aid in that foot transition, that gait cycle, keep things nice and smooth, and allow you to run further, faster, and longer. Now, the upper is somewhere where you can definitely see the first real cosmetic changes to this shoe. The first thing is that the mesh, which looks very, very similar to version 1, is actually still meant to be very open, allow a lot of airflow around the foot. And what I found was it's quite a bit more supple. I mean, this mesh is really, really very supple, which at 50 miles, yes, I put durability into it. I have definitely kicked up against rocks and sticks and stuff, and it doesn't show any picking yet, but I'm curious to see how some of you guys that may have a couple or 300 miles in it, how you might find version 2 of this breaking down. I didn't find any breakdown in version 1. Thus far, have seen not a nick on version 2 with 50 miles on it, so that's actually doing pretty good for me. Now, the bonded overlays in this guy, one of the significant changes that I noticed that I really like actually is that it extends all the way from back here, which ties into the heel counter area, all the way, almost like a rand around the entire shoe, and then back here again. That's going to really aid in durability. It's going to aid you when you're kicking and kind of moving, especially if you're asking your foot to be agile and you're pulling on that material when the foot goes around inside of it, if it goes around inside of it. So you're really reinforcing those things. And that actually goes up into this toe bumper that we see here. This toe bumper is quite a bit scaled back. It still protects the foot, don't get me wrong, but it's a bit scaled back in terms of material density from what it was in version 1. In version 1, it was kind of this stitched on faux leather, plastic, vinyl material that did a great job of protecting the toe, but I would imagine that that's probably where part of the weight loss, which I'm going to talk about in a second, happens in this shoe. Another couple places that this shoe has probably lost weight is that number 1, there is no pull tab, which you will notice back here. Honestly, I never use pull tabs, so I'm not really missing it. If you're someone who uses pull tabs, let us know why down in the comment section below, because I'd love to hear it. Also, the foam around here has been trimmed down. In the first version, it was a little much foam. It didn't necessarily need to be that much, but but in this guy, they've gotten rid of that. It's really, really solid. And then again, the final spot is probably in that the heel counter is a bit more flexible, quite a bit more flexible than in version 1. Gives still a nicely formed heel cup, especially with that sock liner in there, and still lends itself to, you know, kind of the agility that you might need on some trails, but it's more flexible, making this at 10.5 ounces, almost a full ounce lighter than its predecessor, which in both men's size 11 came in at 11.2 ounces. I do like the way that this shoe feels on my foot when I'm going sockless, though I never run trails sockless because I just get dirt and stuff down in there. But it feels very, very comfortable against the foot, no problem. So if you do like to run trails sockless for whatever reason, you can. I think you'd be fine with that. And an additional thing is these sausage link laces right there. They never come in tied for me anyway, so it's really good setup. I just like it a lot, and the suppleness of this upper is really, really a big bonus for me. Something interesting about the shoe is that when you look down, when I look down at my foot when I'm wearing this, it actually seems as though it's more narrow than version 1 of this shoe. But when I put it on, and I think this is largely to be credited to the new, more supple mesh, it feels more roomy. So it's kind of a weird juxtaposition there. So definitely don't go by the optics of looking at it. Put it on your foot and feel what it feels like before you make a call on whether it's too narrow or too roomy or whatever, because it's definitely a different fit than version 1. Also, sizing with industry standard sizing is spot on with me for this guy. Size 11, I didn't have any problems with it. You shouldn't have to go up either size. If you've run in Pearl Izumi before and you found that you need to go up or down a half size, you go for it. I mean, this is pretty consistent exactly where it was with version 1 of the shoe. As far as the ride goes, once again, smoothness is really the name of the game here. And just to be sure that this was maintaining that smoothness from version 1 and from the road variations of these shoes, I took this out on roads, and again, super, super smooth. I really like that dynamic offset, and the feeling is excellent. Now, this being the lowest cushioned of the trail versions of this shoe, they have the N3 and 2 and N1. On the road, they also have an N0, which I'll be racing in my turkey trot in a couple days. You may think that the trail might really bombard your feet with a lot of rocks and things like this, but it doesn't. Apart from the ESS rock plate that is right under the forefoot area here, this does a very nice job of really rolling over terrain and keeping you protected. Again, Pearl Izumi's material is actually pretty firm. We've mentioned that before, and even though they've smoothed out the transition from the different parts of the shoe with the material changes to the midsole, there's still a very, very firm ride here, which is because they're going for not just a material smoothness of a ride by changing the softness of the material, they're going for a mechanical smoothness of the ride by making sure that that shape right there really glides you through the gait process. As I've said before, the E-Motion line from Pearl Izumi is definitely something that I think that everybody should try. The smoothness of these shoes is really quite shocking if you're not ready for it, and I think that a lot of people are going to kind of write it off because they go, Pearl Izumi? No, it's honestly a really, really smooth ride, both on road and trails. Now, this shoe doesn't have a ton of changes. There are not a lot of really, especially cosmetic changes that you're going to notice, but the changes that are there are important in terms of durability and also important in terms of the way that it's going to feel, enhancing that already smooth ride by making the transition from rear foot or midfoot into forefoot that much smoother for the runner. At $115, this comes in right with its trail peers, so have no fear. It's a very affordable shoe. I would imagine that you could probably easily get 400 or 500 miles out of it, depending on the type of trails that you're running on and the type of runner that you are. But one way or the other, get your feet into some of the emotion line from Pearl Izumi and let us hear what you thought. Before I tell you guys today's question of the day, don't forget to like, favorite, and comment on this video. We want to hear back from you guys, especially if you've got questions for Ask Gearist. Now, our question for today is, what of the emotion line from Pearl Izumi have you tried? If you've tried none, or if you've tried all of them, let us know down in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much for taking a few minutes to spend with us today. If you've got any questions about this or any of our videos or other stuff, don't hesitate to let us know by emailing info@gearist.com or just leaving a comment in the comment section down below. As always, follow us on all our social media outlets, which you can see right here, especially that YouTube button right over there. Click on that guy and subscribe to us on YouTube. We're trying to hit 7,000 subscribers by the end of 2015, and you guys can be a huge help in that. Once again, guys, thanks so much for spending a few minutes with us today. We'll see you next time.